The narrative you are dealing with, the people who began to create it first were actually three scholars. Born 1904 and two of them 1906, one in 1904. Abu Mala Maududi, Said Qutb, the third one I can't remember his name, but Hassan al-Banna. Then about 3, 4, 5, 2, 3 generations worked to perfect the script. Writing, changing, reinterpreting. What they came up with was finally polished to perfection by Osama bin Laden and Zawahiri. Every time people compared Hamas and Hezbollah to the work created by Osama bin Laden, he used to denigrate them that something must be wrong with you. How can you compare this to those jokers? So if Osama bin Laden was alive today, and of course many Nigerians went to see him while he was in Sudan between 1991 and 1996, some of whom rose to high heights in Nigeria. If they told Osama bin Laden that you are mistaking what he's doing in Nigeria for Danfodio's quest, he will say leave them because it's effective, strategy-wise. But he will be laughing at them, say no wonder Africans see the monkeys. They can't even they can't even see past their noses. Don't compare a catapult to a Kalashnikov. Comparing that old narrative to the one now. Look, that old narrative was challenged by Borno, what do they call him? What's his name again? El Kanemi. He wrote letters as a scholar challenging Usman Danfodio. The letters are still available today. Go and see it. He was able to show them that, look, you. The sophistication in this one, it's media arm alone. There are many of your colleagues who are being paid. Some of them don't even know they are working for it. Because there's a way you must report terror that increases terrorism. And there's a way you must report terror to decrease terrorism. So you see you're a stakeholder now. For all you care, one of you could be around here right now who is making money off them, who is a Christian. But they didn't tell you that then. They came under the flag of religious tolerance. And when there's any material that you are the first person to say, no. Unlike what he did, when his editor blocked, his first opportunity, he published and found out that he was dealing with a hydra. You know the interesting thing about this thing? When you keep thinking it's only military, while you are facing the military, another head will attack you. The judiciary can come, the education can come, any of the other heads can come and assault you. So tell me, do you think this is something that can be taken apart by a joke? So let's come to Muhammad Buhari. Now, the history of Nigeria is very interesting because before this problem entered, this new war threat entered, Nigeria was already a predatory nation. The Nigerian narrative is predator-prey. Hello? Does somebody understand what I'm saying? The Nigerian narrative is oppressor and oppressed. Not only in northern Nigeria, the entire country. Why was it like that? Because we were programmed by failure engineering as our parting gift by the colonial lords. Divide and rule, cultural, divide and rule, religious. The divide and rule principle was so applied to create what they call a deterministic chaos, which is there will be a lot of movement, but there will never be progress. Now, don't mistake this for restructuring. Restructuring is a structural issue, foundation. This is reprogramming. You are programmed. For instance, I went to the archives in England with a team, colonial archives, documents that have been released now, to discover that the enmity between Yorubas and Igbos was practically programmed. So programmed that anybody who knows the program can create a fight between any Yoruba man and any Igbo man at any time. It's so powerful that the program is still running till now. This Hydra is aware of all that all these problems had already been. the Willings Commission report, 1958. By the time this perfected program from the global now landed in Nigeria, it is very opportunistic. It would do its homework and find how to use poverty, corruption, all that to support its own, you see. But when you now begin to tackle those ones, thinking that that is what it is busy laughing at you. Now, towards independence, there was something called the Northernization Agenda. What year did President Muhammad Buhari join the Nigerian Army? Was it not 1961? By the time President Muhammad Buhari joined the Nigerian Army, the Northernization Agenda was already in full swing, which was what? Using religion to demonize the South in order to have a unified North. Till tomorrow, if you go online and go and Google, you will see a speech by, was it Ahmadu Bello? Talking about the Igbos. Good. Let me tell you the truth. Ahmadu Bello, that was not his own original thought. Some people influenced him to think like that. If you listen to that speech, you will realize till tomorrow that it has been left online, because for every generation of Igbo boy that is born and every generation of Hausa person that is born, there's still that continued enmity. And that speech by the Ahmadu Bello is part of the fuel that was felt on the Northernization Agenda. Anybody who was in the Nigerian Army knew promotions was affected by Northernization Agenda. Many generals today are products of the Northernization Agenda. So that rivalry was always there, but the Northernization Agenda rivalry was not a rivalry to cut off each other's neck. It was a struggle for resource control, a struggle for domination, but not to exterminate. Go and find out anywhere. The civil service, it was there. The military coups, it was there. Another thing about President Muhammad Buhari, before he ever became president of Nigeria or head of state of Nigeria, do you think any of them would have become head of state in Nigeria if young boys had not been taken to Sandust and Mons for officer training, where a new idea that did not exist in Africa was put into their head? Coup d'etat. What is coup d'etat? It's a nice way of calling terrorism. It's military terrorism. January 1966, the country was subjected to military terrorism. Nobody had ever seen bloodshed on that scale. What was the objective? It was to break the spirit of the country so that you can take leadership from it. And from that time till now, regularly, as long as the military were there, whether they are as military officers or they change into khaki, they must wet that program, that covenant must continue to be wetted with brutality and bloodshed. That's why Ken Saro-Wiwa had to go. That's why you had Odi in Bayelsa by military fiat. Why? Because if you've been taught coup d'etat, don't forget that when a soldier joins the army, he says, I lay down my life to protect this nation. I'm not signing to live. I'm signing to do what? To die. So, if you ask me, like every other major general in the Nigerian army, was President Muhammad Buhari affected by the Northernization concept or not? Was there rivalries or not? The demonization of the South on the basis of religion, was it there or not? It was there. 2, if nobody had taken our people to England to go and teach them coup d'etat, would Muhammad Buhari ever have become the head of state of Nigeria? The people who programmed, let me tell you what they were doing. It's called fracturing the leadership selection program. If you want to destroy a society, go and fracture its leadership selection. When you fracture it, the soldiers of those days were good soldiers. They were well trained. They had their drills, they had everything, but nobody taught them economics. Nobody taught them diplomacy. Did anybody teach them anything to do with financial management. Now, when you take a person who is well trained as a soldier and you now put him in a position that requires financial management skills, it requires diplomacy, it requires savvy, it requires many skill sets that are not part of his profession. What have you just done to him? Any soldier you see along the way that did well in any way was because they personally trained themselves more. But there was somebody else who wanted civilians in Nigeria to look up to soldiers as leaders, because naturally we never looked up to them as leaders in the beginning. All politicians became cowed when they saw the degree of bloodshed, and that's what terror does. You strike at the soul and break the spirit. You brutalize them, you subjugate them, and every time they want to try and talk, you use another act of terror to drive them back into cowardice. So generations of leadership in Nigeria has never been the best leadership because leadership selection process became limited. And when it began to become clear that there was no legitimacy to military rule, as the military began to take off their uniform and put on the khaki, the bariga and agbada and whatever, the notion in your mind, planted in your mind from a young age, that these are leaders was still there. So what am I saying right now is that anybody who does a thorough study of Nigeria will understand why President Muhammad Buhari finally became president of Nigeria. 2, I don't like it when people think only as Southerners. I schooled in Northern Nigeria, Ahmadu Bello University, from 1979. A lot of people, when they talk about Nigeria, they think of Port Harcourt, Lagos, Enugu, Aba, and they think that that is Nigeria. Cross over to Zamfara. Go and start from Zamfara. Go to Sokoto. Bauchi. Go around and see what the real Nigeria is. Teeming millions. Is nobody's fault. The person who programmed and added you together without creating protocols for you to work together knew what he was doing. Now, if you are stupid enough for decades to continue to try to live together without reprogramming yourselves, then we should all take a collective responsibility. Now, hear me. When they did the 2015 elections, 31 local government areas were firmly under Boko Haram control. It was no longer a guerrilla tactics. They were morphing into a true army. The information was blanketed. Their media was at work. And let me tell you the truth. President Jonathan was a good man, but he was never a man of war. Had he returned, let me tell you something. Boko Haram wanted to vote for him. 2015. Why? Because people who had infiltrated his cabinet were enjoying the fact when Chibok girls were kidnapped, he believed that Chibok girls were not kidnapped. By the time he was still saying that, I had 40 mothers from Chibok in Lagos here that were giving them medicals. So I knew clearly that if we return this man as president, the army will enter Ilorin intact. So what happened was very simple. When the Boko Haram made their mistake and Muhammad Buhari came, he decimated them by adding professionalism back into the army. And they could understand soldier language. So what did the Hydra do at the global level? He just pulled back and said, so you are de-escalating Boko Haram, abi? Let's see what you are going to do when we come through Magba. So they just defunded Boko Haram and began to fund Magban and all these people. Who was the grand patron? Are there not cultural ties? If we profile anybody here, don't you have cultural ties? These are realistic assessments that we have better be ready to face up to as the church if nobody else can face it. Is there not a code that burns Fulani people? Is he exempt to it? Are the influences not there as well, potentially? What have we done to manage those influences and to counterbalance them?